Hi, it's Bob Lusak, and I'm coming at you from China on Friday the 13th. And I wanted to give you some good news and tell you a little bit of a report, give you a little bit of share a little bit of concern that I have, and give you some advice about the coronavirus stuff because I came back to China on the 27th of January, and I've been held up in my apartment pretty much since then. So it's been almost 2 months. In another week or so, it'll be 2 months. So the good news, the good report, is that as of yesterday, I don't know if anything has changed, and things can change pretty quickly, but as of yesterday, there were zero cases of the coronavirus here in Zhuhai. And Zhuhai, just so you know, it's a pretty big town. It's a pretty big city. I'll throw up some video here off of my balcony so you can kind of get an idea of it. Lots of high rises. There's 1.6 million people here in Zhuhai, it's a fairly close knit town. To give you an idea, some perspective, it's the same population as Phoenix, Arizona. It's about it's a little bit less than half of Los Angeles, but it's twice as many people as San Francisco, twice as many people as San Diego. New York's way up there. New York is what, 8 million people? LA is like 4 million people. So you get a little bit of perspective about the size of this town and its proximity. And there's a lot of high rises, so people are stacked. It's not like Phoenix is it's quite rural and spread out. This isn't. This is compact. It is vertical. So, but things are kind of slowly turning to normal. You can see in the little video clip that I'll share with you that traffic is returning to the streets. People are starting to cruise around a little bit. Things are kind of opening up and getting normal, and that's the point that I want to make, is that it looks as though, and we don't know for sure because it's not the end of this thing yet, that we're clear of it, but it is getting better. Things are loosening up. Things are kind of coming back to normal. And I wanted to do this today because I was doing an interview with a friend of mine that lives in Colorado. And I could see the concern on his face about when we discussed this, about his worry, his concerns about his family and his friends and his community with this virus thing happening. And that's the concern part that I want to bring up in this little talk here, is the society in China. It's a little bit different. The mindset's a little bit different. They're used to big government control. They're used to, in some ways, they're isolated because they don't care. What us Westerners are doing, because they're living their lives and doing their thing. So there isn't this sense of, oh, I'm being controlled. That you always looking from the outside, you tend to feel badly about, some poor people that don't have the same freedoms. But it's only because you're comparing your situation or your perceived situation to what you're perceiving their situation is. Excuse me. So if you're living in a multi-million-dollar home and in the lap of luxury, and somebody else has got a little hut, it seems like they're in a pretty bad shape. But those guys in the little hut, they're smiling and they're having a happy life and they're doing things, and they don't have a sense of, I don't have a 70-inch television to watch. They've never seen one. They don't care. It's all kind of relative to where you are. But the concern that I have here is that this society that tends to be more obedient in its behavior, in this case, was a very good thing. And that's something that I would maybe implore you a little bit. We all hunkered down. We wore our masks. When we went out, I wore gloves and masks, and I suited up, and I did everything that I was told to do in order to contain this thing. And we registered within our communities with our cell phones and stuff, so that and it may seem like an infringement of our freedom, but from a Chinese viewpoint, it's not perceived that way. And in fact, it has been a good thing for that, because they tracked cell phones. So if you did come up with some symptoms of the virus, then, or if you did test positive for the virus, they could see where you had been and who you had contacted, what places to check, so that they could contain it, because that's the important thing. And it has worked. So the measures that they took have worked, and some of those measures were: everybody wears masks, you wash your hands regularly and often, you don't go out, hunker down into where you are, so get the supplies and things you need. Supplies were readily available. I went out once, maybe sometimes twice a week, to get fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, any other supplies that I needed. Things were available. A few things weren't. Initially there wasn't alcohol and I wanted to use some alcohol to kind of clean things up when I brought them home, before I brought them into the house. But I had a couple bottles of Jack Daniels around, so, and it's like 40% alcohol. So I put it in a little squirt bottle, and when I picked up a box, or I brought a bag home, or I did whatever, I would squirt it down. I would squirt my hands down. I'd have gloves on, so I'd squirt those down. I'd squirt everything down, and I wasn't worried about looking cool or feeling cool with my little mask on, and I had another little tube thing on, and I bundled it up like a nerd that was, like a fearful kind of character that was afraid I was going to get sick. I wasn't afraid I was going to get sick, but I went through the motions, and I left the pride behind, and I left the sense of, I'm a free American, I'm going to do what I want to do. No, hunker down a little bit and do the proper thing to contain the virus, and look at it from that viewpoint. And it apparently has worked. Things are turning back to normal. So I would go shopping. I'd buy all my stuff, and Doritos. The only thing that was tough to get at the market were things that came from the West. I was lucky to can't get Cheetos. Cheetos are hard to get here, but I could get some Doritos. They did have some of that, but cheese, balsamic vinegar, just things that are imported. That here are imported things from either Italy or from Australia, or the Western European stuff. That kind of fell away because travel was restricted and shipments were restricted. So if they didn't have it in the warehouse, eventually they ran out of it, over a month and a half, 2 months. So things like that were a little bit difficult to get, but I could get most anything else that I needed, for sure. I could get that. And but I resigned myself to do the proper things. So I would go out and buy it, I'd bring it back, and I'd bring it through the door, I'd leave my mask on and my gloves on, and and I'd get my little spray bottle of Jack Daniels, and spritz the bags that I brought home and everything else. I would kind of spritz it at the front door, and spritz the shoes, and spritz my coat with this thing. So my whole front doorway smells like a bar. It's actually a little bit better than a bar, because you get that mix of alcohol in the bar. But this was just pure Jack, seasoned oaked whiskey. So that's what my front door smelled like. But then I'd be very careful about bringing the bags into the kitchen area. And then I would slowly and methodically unpack stuff and wash it all, wash everything. So I washed. I basically would. Put a bunch of suds in the sink, and bags of chips, boxes of pasta, all the fruit, the potatoes, the eggs, everything. I would soak them in there, and I would just spend that. It took maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, maybe a half hour. Initially when I first did it, it seemed like forever. But after the second, third time of doing it, it just became a nice routine. And I brought get the bananas, and the bananas went into the tub of soapy water, and I'd wash them and kind of rinse them off and hang them up, and I packed everything nicely, and I take off my gloves, and I take off my mask, throw the mask away, throw the gloves away, and then wash after that, and just do the proper protocol, without worrying about the consequences or the inconvenience of it or anything like that, and left, because I did it. I could leave the concerns behind because I did all the right things. So I didn't spend the rest of my time in my house, worried that I was going to catch some virus. I did everything that I could do. And then I went about doing some fun things. I got a lot of stuff done around the house, all the little chores and things that I've been putting off. So that's the advice part of this is take this time. If you have to kind of isolate yourself in a community, take this time to get the stuff done that you've been wanting to do. Take it as an advantage, to use it as a good thing while also helping with the community. And see, one of the things that happened here, and I'll show you pictures of that too, is they stopped deliveries. So before you could order food, or you could order groceries, or you could get something on the internet, and it would come and they'd knock on your door and they'd deliver it. They wouldn't let people come into the community, because they wanted to stem any possible spread of things, right? So one of the wonderful things here, and these are the other pictures you'll see here, is they would deliver it to the gate, and then the resident, in the apartment complex or in the community, would then have to go down to the gate and pick it up. So you didn't go out of the gate, you just went to the gate, picked it up, came back, and then of course washed it all up and all that good stuff. But the wonderful thing about this community and this society that I'm living in, even though it's a city of 1.6 million people and it's pretty well jam-packed, and there's people of all levels, very wealthy to very poor, no one was concerned about theft or vandalism or anything of that nature. There was the boxes basically were just lined out onto the sidewalk. They put up a few tents in spots so that when there was a little bit of inclement weather and we had some rain, things were getting wet, but they were just out in the open. And you could see, sometimes it was bags of groceries that had been delivered. You could see exactly what was in the bag, but no one bothered it. It was the owner of it came and got it when it was convenient for them to come and get, and no one else bothered it. Everyone put it there, and it wasn't horribly organized, but they grouped it. This is building number 60 through 80 is here, and 80 through 100 is here. They basically did that, and you kind of had to go through the boxes to find your thing, but kind of feeling a little bit blessed to be in an environment, in a society that goes through this kind of a difficulty and doesn't have extra concerns like silly things of stealing people's stuff. There was just no concern about that. So the community pulled together. The West will do that too, but what I'm concerned about in the West is the pride, the sense of, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm free, and I'm a rebel, and I'm going to do, and I'm not going. You know what? Just buck up and do the proper thing, because you don't want to spread it to other people. We've discovered that this isn't so deadly, but it's still sick, and you don't want to get other people sick, and you don't want to be sick. So just do the right stuff, and then bugger through, and sit it out for a month, 2 months. It has worked here, and I'm worried that it won't work in the West because of the cavalier attitude and the "you can't tell me what to do" sort of free spirit illusion that is there. It's a relatively serious thing. Take it seriously, do the right stuff, and get through it. And happy to report, out the other side, I'm starting to have internet meetings and stuff with things at work, and pretty soon I'm sure we'll be back at work and things will return to relative normal. So that's the word from today, Friday the 13th in Zhuhai, China. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.